I have a leak on the race car between the chain housing for the cam and the cam tower. I was able to remove this part of this cover for the shroud and look down in here, and you probably can't see it, but the gasket is not centered around the camshaft. It's offset. So somehow when I reinstalled everything, I managed to get this gasket cocked. So it's a relatively easy fix. You have to remove the chain housing cover, which I already did. Get it set at top dead center, which it is pretty close to top dead center. And we can remove the cam sprocket and all of that and get to that flange that sits around there and seals that, and replace the gasket in the correct orientation. Also, we are going to have to time this cam. I'll try to get the sprocket back to the same exact position, so it should be close. So I have to remove the right side top valve cover, which I already have the nuts off and the washers off, and set up a gauge to measure what the opening is. Okay, I have removed my dial indicator from its base, and I completed this Chinese jigsaw puzzle to mount the dial indicator on number 4 intake cylinder. I backed off the motor a little bit away from top dead center because this would have been a valve overlap, which meant the valve was opening, and that's where I would have measured the cam timing. I wanted the valve closed so that I could zero the dial indicator, which it is. It's sitting on the valve retainer right there. And I am now ready to start to remove the cam sprocket, chain, and all of that, and attempt to fix this leak. Before I start this process of removing the cam sprocket, I'm going to set the motor back at top dead center so that that cam is sitting at top dead center. The cam will have some pressure on it at top dead center. It may want to spin to get away from the pressure that the valves are putting on it. So you just have to be careful when you do this. Don't let it fly so that you could possibly bend a valve. If you do this slowly and carefully, even if it does come up against a piston, that is, a valve touches a piston, it's not going to bend it. All right, the first thing to do is remove the tensioner on this, and I have a mechanical tensioner. All right, now I can loosen the cam nut. Yeah, and that chain does have tension on it. So it's currently trying to counteract the valves wanting to close. One of the valves wanting to close. So I'm okay now. I'm in equilibrium with the the valve and the chain tension holding it. All right, so where is the pin? Okay, the pin's over here. I'm going to try to scribe this to mark. It looks like maybe somebody did mark it already. Yeah, there's a V. I've done this before on this car. And there's a spot there, but let me just scratch that a little. Okay, so now I know which hole the pin goes in. That should get me set close to the valve timing that I had, which I set this at 165 thousandths. This is an Elgin modified S-cam. Okay, to get this pin out, I need the right side screw. Some people talk about a spark plug tip, but I found that not all the spark plug tips can be removed. All right, I finally found my special screw for that pin. I have the screw in there. Now, what I need to do is relieve this tension on the cam and remove that screw carefully. All right, that's easy enough. And then let the cam relax. It's not really taking too much tension. Oh, good. And the next thing is to remove the cam sprocket. Okay, and remembering where my scribe mark is, right there for the pin. The next thing to do is remove the small sprocket. This chain, depending on how new your chain is, it should come around the end of the cam. There is a key up here, so be careful when you take this off. The key doesn't get lost. It's keyed on top. The key, if you're top dead center, the key will be at the top for both camshafts. Okay, so now, there it is. To get that key out, you have to be careful. If you're working on the other side of the engine, it's a lot easier for parts to fall down into the engine. This side has a little valley for the tensioner, which typically stops any little parts from falling. All right, then there's a bunch of spacers in here to set the offset of the camshaft. All right, I was planning to use my magnet, my telescoping magnet, but it must be sticking around somewhere that I don't know where I left it. And the other one, my spare one, is behind my buddy's cabinet in his race car trailer. So I'll just pull this off, and all these washers should come off with it. We just loosen these 3 screws, or yeah, 3 screws, 3 bolts. And they do have a washer, flat washer on them. Again, be careful not to drop anything into the motor. The advantage of doing it with the motor tucked dead center is, as I mentioned earlier, the right side intake valve, number 4 intake valve, is going to be at overlap, which is where the cam timing is set. So when I put this pin back in and set everything, I should show my cam timing, at least something close to what the cam timing is. Again, it's 0.165. And from there, I can make fine adjustments to get it set to the 165, which is covered in numerous other areas on the interweb. Let's see if I can pop this out. Okay, and there it is. There's the O-ring, and there's my gasket, which is way the heck off. I just set all of this stack of washers aside, shims. And the next thing is to just clean up that surface, as well as cleaning up this surface of this flange, getting a new gasket on there. All right, so I've cleaned up the cam tower mounting surface. I've cleaned up this flange, and I've installed a new paper gasket and O-ring. And I used Corel T on the paper gasket on both sides. So it's surprising that somehow this gasket became dislodged the last time I assembled this. All right, so with the bolts in it yet, let's see if I can get this on here without disturbing the gasket. There's one bolt. There's the third. All right. Let's just draw this down evenly. And I'll check the torque spec and torque these. All right, I found a spec of 10 Newton meters or 7 foot-pounds. Let's see how that feels. Sounds about right for the bolt this size. 7, 8. There we go. Something that small, it makes me nervous really torquing them up to the full torque value. All right, now it's time to replace the chain sprocket, the cam sprocket. I had to remove the tensioner to get a little more space in here. Also, one of the things I didn't mention was I actually marked the chain and where the tooth is to match that mark on the sprocket, because if I rotate the sprocket in the chain, even though I line it up with the marks that I put where the pin is, that sprocket is moved and the pin's going to be in a different spot. So what I'll do is try to put the sprocket at matching this point in the chain. You have to put the chain around the sprocket first. You can't put the sprocket on and then get the chain over it. There's not enough room in the case. Alexa, turn on the shop lights.
Okay.
Okay, so there's my mark for, oh, there's my mark on where it goes in the chain. And there's the mark there for where it goes in the chain. And right here. And right there. Again, you can do this without lining up the chain, but it's going to be a little more challenging to figure out which hole. Fortunately, this cam doesn't seem like it's spun that much. So either way, I should be close. All right, so last trick is to go over top of here. Okay, and we're on. We're still lined up. I think so. And looks like the pin goes in there. Let's see. Yeah, that slid right in there. So let's put the chain tensioner back in. Let's just see how this cover fits before I get too much further along in the event I need to face this spacer slightly. Gosh, it's wobbling. All right, I am going to face that spacer slightly. I think I was able to tap this on before, but it worries me a little bit, so let me address that. All right, I faced this spacer off on the lathe just to take a smidgen off of it. Let's see if that helps. Oh yeah, that is not proud anymore. Yep, no more wobble. All right. Next thing is to tension this. Mechanical chain tensioner is supposed to be set at 1.5 millimeter gap between the tensioning screw and the tensioner where it rests on that. That looks about 1.5, but I'm not going to set it exactly until I get this timed. Actually, maybe I'll tighten it. Yeah. Get it really tight. The reason you need a small gap is as the motor heats, everything expands, which tightens the chain. And of course, you don't want too much tension on the chain. But for the purpose of timing the cam, I can tighten that a little more. All right, the next thing is to remove the screw, leave the pin in there. I don't know where the dial indicator is exactly, but it looks like it might be a 165, unless I'm off a full revolution. So I could be getting lucky. Put the thrust washer on, snug this up, just to get an idea where we are. That took some tension out of it, which is probably where it was before. All right, on to the checking the cam timing. I am not going to record a lot of this because cam timing is covered in so many other videos. I will let you know the results of this, whether I have to move anything, and then come back and finalize this chain housing. All right, I timed the right cam. I did have to move the pin one position, so I don't know if I got it in the wrong hole somehow, but it was close enough. So it's sitting at about 162 now for the timing, so I can button this up. Let's see. I need 1.5 on there. Seems pretty close. Let's try a feeler gauge. I usually have to take two, put them together that are close. Yeah. All right, so the tensioner is set 1.5 millimeter gap. You can see there's some looseness in the chain. The nut, cam sprocket nut is set to 110 foot-pounds. Timing is set, so we should be good to button this up. Alright, I'm done repairing the leak between the cam tower and the timing chain housing, and it's been running for a while now.